Today I'm going to be talking about The Empire of Ashes by Anthony Ryan. So I didn't actually realize when I picked up this book that it's actually the last book of a trilogy, and it definitely reads like one. So basically it drops you right into the middle of a lot of different conflicts that are going on. For instance, like there's a revolution going on in one country, there's an expedition going on somewhere with like a lot of ice where people, I'm not entirely sure what they were doing there, but you've got a lot of different characters, a lot of different conflicts, and everything is sort of coming to the climax of the story. So I'm not going to give you too much about the plot because I'm afraid that some of it might be spoilers, and I know that that bothers some people. So I thought it might actually be better to introduce a little bit about the world that this book takes place in. The technology level is basically, I think, a little bit less advanced than ours, so they have steamboats and stuff like that, but they do not have things like computers. Instead, they have a lot of technology that runs off drake blood. So one of the major differences between the world in this series and ours is the existence of certain creatures called drakes. So you have a couple different colors and types of drakes. So for instance, blue drakes sound like they're kind of like fire-breathing giant sea serpents. You've got green drakes, which sound a bit like they're smaller and have like both land and water-going varieties. You've got black drakes and red drakes that both fly. And then you've got white drakes, which actually play the role of the main antagonist, I guess, of the series. So the white drakes were, I guess, a little bit different than the other breeds in that they were genetically engineered and they really hate humans for some reason. Like, it's not, I don't know if they explained it more clearly in previous books or not, but in this book it doesn't really tell you too much more about the history of the white drake, which I assume previous books probably got into. And the entire premise of the story is this war that's going on between the white drake, which has the power to control red, green, and blue drakes, and like are using them and sort of like enslaved humans to attack and destroy different parts of like human society. And the main characters include a huge variety of characters around the world that are working in different capacities, like against this rising enemy. I was basically looking for a more epic, serious, action-y kind of story, and this book definitely delivered on that. I think the upside was that it was extremely well written, very complex, and had a lot of action. Like, it was definitely the kind of story it was hard to put down. But on the downside, there was a great deal of extremely graphic violence. Like I said, it is essentially a war story. So there's a lot of fighting, a lot of battles, and a lot of deaths, I guess. And most of it is described in pretty vivid detail. The other downside is, since it's hard to put down and it's really long, if you're going to read it, I would set aside a large block of time to do so. And I think for me anyway, like, I don't have a lot of patience for suspense. So for instance, the fact that it has characters all around the world and it jumps from character to character, I had to work really hard not to skip some of the sections because I'll be more interested in one character than another, and then it'll cut away from someone just as something big is about to happen, like a battle is about to be fought, and it'd be really hard for me to not just skip the section of whoever comes in between to get back to the other conflict. So I think it depends on what kind of reader you are. Like, I just don't really have a lot of patience for stories that are too fast-paced or too cliffhangery. But other than that, I do think it was a very well-written, like very interesting and very complex kind of story, and the world itself was definitely very captivating and pretty different from a lot of the stuff I've listened to. Like, you've got people who can use the blood of these different colored drakes to do different, I guess, things that we might consider somewhat magical abilities, like lighting fires with your mind, or like mind melding with other people, doing telepathic tricks and stuff. And a lot of that also plays into the kind of technology that they have and the different I guess weapons and other tools and stuff that get developed and used throughout the story. So a lot of that, like if you really want to get into the world and the action, this is definitely a good book. But I would recommend beginning from book one, because I think for me, I'm got a lot of experience at just picking up a story partway through, but it was a little bit jarring in that there was a lot that you kind of had to deduce, because I'm assuming that it did a lot of its explaining in previous volumes.